Okay, let's just say you live in a climate where spring takes its time to really appear. It feels kind of like spring, the light looks like spring, but yet it's still cold. How can you start to change over your wardrobe wearing outfits that feel and look a little bit more spring, but are still quite warm? That is what we are going to talk about in today's Style Fix video. Because here in Montreal, really spring is taking its time, and this can be such a frustrating time of year to get dressed because we're so desperate for the change, but we still have to keep our coats. We still have to keep some of our favorite sweaters and pants that we've been wearing all winter long to keep us warm. So one of the things that I really like to do at this time of year to keep it simple for myself, because the weather does fluctuate and one day it could be really cold and the next day all of a sudden really warm. You kind of never really know. And this goes on for a little while. I don't know if it's like that where you live, but it's definitely like that here. And the best way I feel to start to make outfits look a little bit more springy is to introduce print. And this is really fun because it all of a sudden brightens whatever you've been wearing. If you've been wearing all black most of the winter, or if you've been wearing a lot of gray or brown all winter, all of a sudden adding in a print, it's almost like adding in color without necessarily really adding in color. And don't get me wrong, I love introducing color as well this time of year, but sometimes because our skin has not seen the sun for so long, sometimes adding in a lot of color feels a little bit harsh and doesn't quite feel right. So one of the prints that I think we've saw a lot in the fall, we saw a lot all winter, and we're seeing a lot again this spring is a leopard print or an animal print. This is probably the easiest print to introduce because it's really a classic. It's easy to wear, it's not terribly bright, and works with a lot of different colors. And I particularly love the idea, if you're not really an animal print person, but like the idea of trying it, I really love the idea of bringing it in a shoe, for instance, or a little clutch. I feel like this is an easy touch to add that print without being overwhelming. Also love the idea of taking that animal print, let's say that you've been wearing all winter, and adding in a brighter color, pairing it with red, pairing it with yellow, pairing it with orange, doing it with pink, let's say, or even doing it with a lighter wash jean. We know that it looks fantastic with brown, for instance, or a classic blue hue, but bringing in some brighter colors or having fun with pairing it with a stripe is such a fun way to add a little bit of brightness, a little bit of lightness, and a little cheeriness to your basic leopard print. This is definitely not for everybody, and I love the idea of mixing prints, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more at the end of the video. Okay, next print that I love and I think is so appropriate at this time of year is, of course, a floral. But the thing about florals that I find can be a little bit of a challenge is I feel like they can look sort of older than you might want really quickly. So it can be a little bit tricky because they're so pretty, they're so beautiful, they're a great way to add in color in a more subtle kind of way. But I find to keep it looking young and fresh and more fashion is by juxtaposing that really pretty floral with something that's a little bit rougher and tougher, like a motorcycle jacket or an oversized sweater or a big leather boot. Not necessarily having the whole outfit really floral and very sort of traditional, because I feel like that keeps it less fresh and exciting. I love the idea of juxtaposing a harder fabric with this lighter, flowy, really pretty fabric. And if you do love a floral, for instance, but don't necessarily love the idea of wearing it as a print in a shirt or a dress or a skirt, then why not think about just introducing it in a scarf. Such an easy way to add in a little bit of color and a little bit of spring to a very simple outfit. Really easy and is always going to look chic and elegant. The other thing I think that is really important when we're talking about floral to keep it easy is doing tones that are a little bit more subdued. Obviously, you want to do things that work with your skin tone, but doing hues that are softer, that work together, doing a floral with, let's say, a washed jean, for instance, or doing a pale floral dress with a pale floral scarf, for instance. Matching tones like this, when you're introducing a print that can be a little bit busy, is going to make it very simple. Okay, next, and this one is a obvious one. And I have to admit, when I was living in Paris, the first spring, I remember realizing, oh my God, everybody is pulling out their stripe shirts. And it is a great place to wear a striped shirt in the spring because it is bright, because it adds a little cheeriness without necessarily adding a lot of color. So here, I think this is the easiest thing to do, is starting to wear a striped shirt with a pair of jeans, with a black pant, with a gray trouser, with a skirt, however you want to do it. This to me is a no-brainer. It's super easy. It's always going to look classic. It's always going to look polished. Add a trench coat on top and you are ready to go. And this is where we can start to play around a little bit and start to get a little bit cheeky here. Playing around with stripes, doing stripe on stripe on stripe. Love this idea. Doing stripe with a leopard, let's say, doing stripe with a floral perhaps, doing a stripe with a more graphic type print. And if you've never tried it before, one of the easiest places to start is matching a stripe with a polka dot. It's kind of a pairing that really works together. You're never really going to go wrong. And I think that when you are thinking about mixing print, the main thing to think about is colors. So doing a stripe with a polka dot in the same kind of color tones, or doing a stripe, a classic navy and white stripe, let's say, with a red and white polka dot. That is always going to work because it's almost like they're the same kind of print, if that makes sense. But I also love the idea of taking this to the max and really having fun, playing around with prints. So doing your stripe with your floral, or doing your stripe with your leopard print, or doing a stripe with a leopard print and a floral. Really having fun with layering those prints. If you stay mostly in the same color tones, it's going to work. But when I say that, I also mean feel free to break all those rules and just really have fun. Doing the print on print is definitely not for everybody. It is a really maximalist kind of feel, but I think it's really fun. I think it's really fashion forward. And I feel like it's the kind of thing that you may be surprised with how well you can pull it off. So there you go. Those are my ideas. I hope you liked them. I hope this got you inspired. I hope this inspired spring to finally arrive for good. It's got to come at one point or another. If you liked these ideas, please leave a comment down below. You know I love hearing from you. Pass this video along to a friend who you know wears a lot of print and might like this. And of course, for more ideas, more inspiration, or just simply to see what I'm doing, don't forget you can follow me on Substack, on Facebook, and of course on Instagram.